You know, John 3:16. It's got to be the most famous verse in the entire Bible, right? But what if the way we usually read it, the way we've all heard it a million times, actually misses a really crucial detail? Today, we're going to break down a sermon that takes a totally fresh look at these familiar words, and it uncovers this deeper, more profound meaning that's been hiding in plain sight all along. Okay, let's dive in.
So let me start with this analogy. Have you ever been driving, just following your GPS, and suddenly it tells you to take some weird detour? You've no idea why, but you just listen to it. And then later, you find out there was a massive pileup on the road you were supposed to be on. That little rerouting just saved you from a total disaster. You were on a path leading straight to a guaranteed crash, and this outside voice gave you a new way forward.
And that GPS metaphor, it is the key to this entire message. The idea is that humanity, by default, is on a road that ends in certain death. So the good news isn't just some nice thought. It's a critical, life-saving rerouting. It's a new way that's offered to help us avoid a guaranteed catastrophe. All right, so if we're going to really appreciate this new path, we've got to first understand the old one. Why is the default route so incredibly bad? You see, to really get the good news, you have to first grapple with the bad news. The context for this famous verse isn't hope. It's the absolute, undeniable assurance of death. The good news only really makes sense when you understand just how severe the bad news actually is. And to illustrate this idea of guaranteed death, Jesus himself, right before saying John 3:16, brings up this intense story from the Old Testament. The people of Israel sinned, and God sent these deadly snakes as a judgment. If you got bit, it was a death sentence, period. The only way to be saved was to look at a bronze serpent on a pole that God had told Moses to make. The story becomes this really powerful symbol for humanity's whole situation.
And that is the key insight right there. I mean, a cure, like just looking at a bronze snake, it sounds kind of strange on its own, right? But when you realize that the alternative is certain, agonizing death from snake venom, well, suddenly that weird-looking cure becomes the most valuable thing in the entire world. It's that black backdrop of sin that gives the good news all of its color and all of its urgency.
Okay, so with that dark backdrop fully established, how does John 3:16 offer a solution? Let's break down that incredibly famous opening line. Now, here is where the interpretation takes a really fascinating turn. We almost always read, "For God so loved the world," to mean God loved the world so much. The focus is on the degree, the quantity of his love. But the sermon argues that the original language suggests a totally different emphasis. It's not about how much, but how. You should think of it more like, this is the way God loved the world. So the crucial point here is this. The verse isn't primarily about the feeling of love, but the demonstration of it. It's setting up the specific action that follows. This is how God loved the world, that he gave. The love is proven by the act of giving. Okay, so if God's love is expressed through an action, the action of giving, then what exactly is the gift? This is where things go even deeper. A lot of modern translations say God gave his only son, but older ones use this really crucial phrase, only begotten son. Now that word, monogenes, in the original Greek, is theologically loaded. The sermon makes it super clear. It does not mean created. It doesn't mean the son just began to exist at some point. It describes an eternal relationship. He is eternally from the Father. And here is the payoff for that little theological detail. Another verse. John 1:18 actually calls Jesus the only begotten God. So if God gives his only begotten God, he isn't just giving something from himself, he is giving himself. The gift is his very own person. And this distinction is profound. I mean, think about it. If I give you a gift card, there's a certain distance between us. If you reject it, you're just rejecting an object. No big deal. But if I give you myself, my time, my presence, my very being, that creates real intimacy. And if you reject that gift, you're not rejecting a thing. You're rejecting me, the person. This is the profound nature of the gift God gives. So, we have a path to certain death and a new way offered through the gift of God himself. This brings us to the final part of this explanation, the human response to this incredible offer. The verse presents us with two starkly different destinies. On one side, you have perishing. We're talking eternal death, judgment, and darkness. On the other, eternal life, peace, rest, joy, and light. The gift offers a complete exchange, a total rerouting from that first column over to the second one. So how do you make the turn? how do you get rerouted onto this new path? The mechanism is incredibly simple, yet so profound. Whoever believes. And that's the key. It's not about earning your way off the old road. There's nothing you can contribute. The only requirement is to believe, to trust in the gift that's been given. But if the gift is so great and the requirement is just belief, why would anyone reject it? The passage points to a fascinating and pretty tragic reason. Jesus is presented as the light, and some people simply prefer the darkness because they don't want their actions exposed. It's like this great analogy from the show The Big Bang Theory, where a character's check engine light has been on for months. To her, the longer it's on, the less it seems to matter. She's just gotten used to it. But in reality, the longer that light stays on, the more dangerous the situation is becoming. In the same way, people can get comfortable on the path to destruction, just ignoring all the warning signs. So in the end, it all comes down to two possible responses when you're confronted with this light, with Jesus. Some run from it, they hate it because it exposes them, but others are drawn to it, and their coming to the light is presented as evidence that God was already at work in their hearts, preparing them to receive his gift. And this brings us to the final, powerful question at the heart of this interpretation. The offer is for whoever believes. It's an open invitation to take the new path. And so the question becomes really personal. Are you among the whoever?